we will call this meeting to order. Cordell, would you lead us in prayer?
Yes, sir. Dear Father, we come to you with that on our heart, asking, Father, to please be with each and everybody here. Please be with the Lewis family during their time of loss. Lord, we ask to please give each and every person here the strength to represent you in a manner that will make you proud. Dear Jesus, we thank you for everything you've done for us. Jesus, I ask you to pray this prayer to the Father God in heaven, in thy holy name. Our Lord, Savior Jesus Christ, and I pray. Amen.
Also remember, Board of Education member Randy Glover, he lost his father this week as well. All right, you join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, you may be seated. Would you do us a roll call, please, Stacy?
Lydia Gregory. Helen Bowes. Here. Terry Gibbons. Here. Billy Bass. Here. Greta Kirby. Here. Charles Kent. Here. Ron Pascal. Here. Lynn Brown. Scotty Barrett. Here. Matt Inyart. Here. Erica Ebel. Here. Cordell Smith. Here. Danny Irizarry. Stephen Lish. Here. Eddie Stout. Here. Casey Elrod. Here. Justin Malden. Here. Barry Cahoon. Here. Tommy Bain. Here. Junior Fields. Here. Connor McDonald. Here. Tim Beller. Here. Danny Huff. Here. Ed De La Rosa. Here. 21.
21, so we do have a quorum. All right. Next item on the agenda is public comment. Is there any public comment? No public comment? All right. All right, we'll move on to item number 6 is the summary financial statements as a presentation to you. Those are through April, so you can see what we're tracking budget-wise. Any questions or comments on those before we move on? Justin?
Does that have May sales tax in here? So no revenue collection for May.
Right. Yeah, we're a month behind on questions. No makes yes. All right. Any other questions or comments on summary financial statements? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on. Item number 7 is budget amendments. Those are found on page 14 of your packet. The resolution 05-2401, though these are all 101 general fund budget amendments. The first one, the 51-210, that is a move inside the property assessor's office. He's moving $500 in his lines in order to increase pay to his Board of Equalization. 53-30 and 46-220 are drug court moves. That is extra money they receive from the state that we're moving into that line. The 54-110 and 44-170 are refunds from a vendor back into the sheriff's budget. 57-100 is ag extension. That is a $2,500 move inside the budget to increase their travel line, taken away from other salaries and wages. 55-310 is for the EMS. It is a donation that was provided for a meal for EMS week. Just moving that in. 91-170 and through there, the next 4 or 5 are all TDEC ARP water money grants, and these are just keeping money inside the general fund to be able to spend that in case any utility district happens to have to spend money before June 30th this year. I would be as shocked as pigs fly if there was money spent, because we're almost 2 years in and there's not been a shovel put in the ground yet, but things change. So, but that's your budget. At this time, I would take a motion to approve those.
Motion approved.
Motion approved. Commissioner Fields, second by Commissioner Henry. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions or discussions on these? All right, seeing none, roll call, please, Ms. Stacy.
Helen Bowes. Terry Givens. Billy Bass. Greta Kirby. Charles Kent.
Yes.
Ron Pascal. Scotty Barrett. Matt Inyard. Erica Ebel. Cordell Smith.
Yes.
Stephen Leish.
Yes.
Eddie Stout. Casey Elrod.
Yes.
Justin Malden.
Yes.
Barry Cahoon.
Yes.
Tommy Vane.
Yes.
Junior Fields.
Yes.
Connor McDonald.
Yes.
Tim Beller.
Yes.
Danny Huff. Ed De La Rosa. Unanimous.
All right, those passed. Thank you very much. Item number 8 is the presentation and discussion of the 2024-25 all funds budget. You were given a new copy tonight. I thought they were all together. Oh. I thought that was a continuation of this one. My bad. All right, I have resolution 05-24-2402 is another American Rescue Plan grant of moving money inside the general fund before spending it, TDEC money, before the end of the year. At this moment, I take a motion by Matt Inyard, second by Casey Elrod, to approve this resolution. Any questions or discussion? All right, seeing none, Stacy, will you do this roll call?
Helen Bowes. Terry Givens. Billy Bass.
Yes.
Greta Kirby. Charles Kent.
Yes.
Ron Pascal.
Yes.
Scotty Barrett. Matt Inyard.
Yes.
Erica Ebel. Cordell Smith.
Yes.
Stephen Leish.
Yes.
Eddie Stout. Casey Elrod. Justin Malden.
Yes.
Barry Cahoon.
Yes.
Tommy Vane.
Yes.
Junior Fields.
Yes.
Connor McDonald.
Yes.
Tim Beller.
Yes.
Danny Huff. Ed De La Rosa. Unanimous.
All right, that passes. Thank y'all. All right, now we move on to item number 8, presentation and discussion of the 2024-25 all budgets, fund budget. Tonight, you won't vote on any of these budgets. This is more about coming together, us presenting what we've been working on as a budget committee. The budget committee has not passed any budget yet out of committee. One of the things we want to do tonight was kind of show you where we're ready to take that vote, but we wanted to present it to you guys kind of like we did last year. Let you look at it. If you got questions, suggestions, again, we're not going to, we can't take a vote on anything tonight because we're not voting on it, but we can take suggestions and be asked to look at other things. And so what we do is just kind of presenting it. So you do have the, as Daisy said, hot off the press, and when you were handed it tonight, there were some changes from your original packet to this one, and that's on the revenue side, on the property tax side. There was a change in the total amount of property tax collected or forecasted to be collected where we moved the pennies, where we met maintenance of effort, had money, and we moved the pennies out of the education side and moved them over to here, so you'll see a revenue increase there. But with that increase also, there was a overlook or a misfigure of the insurance rates. Daisy went back and fixed those today on the insurance side. As we discussed in budget committee on the insurance side, that total you're seeing as far as expense side is what it would take. It's a 5% estimate of what we think insurance could go up. It could go up 8, it could not go up, it could go up 2. We basically budgeted in 5%. And that is, as we said in budget meeting, last year we voted and this commission approved that for this year we would pay the individual's portions of health care. And that's what this is adding that 5% to that total, and the ones that came on extra open enrollment after this was added. Again, that was I mean, we've always, since I've been here, and I know they did it in the past, it's always been a 1 year to 1 year thing about as far as what the county pays for insurance. And so that's keeping it, paying the premium for an individual and with the 5% increase. Again, we always set that as a 1 year thing. So that's included this year's budget. Daisy, help me, I don't think there was any other changes in revenues that we saw there. The local option sales tax, we went off of our averages there for a projection for 3 years with a little increase, but not a lot. So you'll see at the end, total revenues of $19,579,639. Any questions or discussions on revenue side? Penny value was just a shade bit under what it was last year. This is a ratio year, and Terry's not here to explain the ratio, but he's kind of told y'all. So our ratio hit at 73 this year, so we had to take a 27% decrease on one side to balance that out. 73% after what we heard last year is really good. I mean, there's some surrounding counties that got hit in the 60s and 50s, and I think Sevier County actually was in the 40s on their reappraisal, so they took a big hit. Terry does a tremendous job to keep us ahead of that and not losing that money on that side, so we don't have to scramble with that. Any questions or discussion? Connor, your hand up was first.
Do we have any updates from Terry Collins about whether we can do the quick 4 years?
We did. You guys already approved the 4 year cycle.
I know that has to be approved by the state though.
Yes, I'm pretty sure I signed some paperwork on that and got that done. The legislature was looking to change that this year, and it got lost in the shuffle at the last minute. So I haven't heard whether that'll be back or not. So, all right. Justin, you have a question?
Two things. One, because of our expenditure increase being so much larger, a lot of that is that ARP money being shifted.
Correct.
Right, so that's not going to be recurring.
No.
And there's also some other grant money there as well, right?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. All right.
So out of that, even though we're at 19 million, the best thing to look at for us as far as recurring is to go back to the operation side.
Right.
One section before that, right?
Yes. Oh, your local, yeah, when you get down to,
That's on
the page 6.
36. That general county operation is a
Yes.
better target of where we're gonna, because I know when you look at that, you see that's a very large increase, but, when you got almost $4 million in grant funding there.
Right, I'll say that. Correct. Any other questions or discussions on the revenue side? All right. We'll go on to the expense side then. We'll hit the high notes on all of these and go from there. County commission is up a little. One thing that Daisy and I did talk about yesterday, the legislature did pass a $600 stipend for continuing education for commissioners. So once we get the final ruling on how that is, then we come back and add that expense on the county commission side. If you guys, as you take that classes and do your continuing education, there will be a $600 stipend for that. Board of Equalization stayed the same. County mayor and executive, the state raises on that side, and then one thing that will go across the board on all these on salary lines is a 3% salary increase. That is based off of fund balance growth of more than 4%, and so we will grant the 3% raises, or the 3% raises are in this budget tonight. County attorney, we did, yes,
I wanna go back to the commission thing, y'all gonna get 100 questions from me. That $600 stipend, does the county have to pay for that, or is that state?
that's my understanding, the county pays for that. Connor, is that?
I thought that's what that was,
Yeah.
That's per commissioner?
Per commissioner.
Yeah, and if the county is required, if we're required to do the training, is the county required to pay us for it?
That's my understanding.
That will fulfill your obligation.
Yes, there will, yeah. But again, the process and all that's not been sent to us.
Originally, that,
Did they increase the amount of training?
1 hour.
1 hour.
and originally that bill was supposed to, it had a lot more teeth to it.
Yes.
Remove commissioners.
If you didn't do it, yeah.
15 education hours, and they came to a compromise that, let's give the carrot instead of the stick. There's a $600 stipend if you get your hours completed, as opposed to removing you from office if you didn't.
Yeah.
That's where that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a bit harsh, but yeah. So,
It's not having costs for about $16,400 a year. If
20
every, if all 24 commissioners are.
Yeah, so you would look at, yeah. So that may change once we get a final rule on that for sure. County attorney, we did bump $5,000. We use Jeremy a lot. I mean, I felt like he should get a bump there again. That was a suggestion and we put it in the budget. Election commission, looks like it's down a little, but they should have but one election next year. Register deeds, everything is 3%, and whatever data processing goes, their software goes up, it goes up every year. Planning, and there was an increase in the contract on the planning side for the development district to do that, so we added that in. 51750 coast compliance, that's one that we did. We did include adding a position there. Mike we're doing about 100 to 130 building permits a year, so he doesn't really have time to do the code compliance like needs to be done, so we're going to add a full-time position in there for somebody to handle the code compliance side of that, or asking to add that in there for that portion on that one. County buildings, I've also asked in that one to add another maintenance person to allow, that would give me 4 full-time just mowing all the time, and that would allow David to be more of a facilities manager, and he can track more about what's fixing to go out, some planning and project managing on that side. Like I said again, that's in there and added as for 52,100 accounting and budgeting. We'll stop and talk about that a little bit because there seems to be some misconceptions on that one. So Daisy, so catch y'all up. You all agreed to the lawsuit that we settled, that we would offer all 5 positions at the school board. They would move over and take those positions and go from there. 3 or 4 weeks ago, Daisy made those offers, and all but one is declined. So 4 of those are not coming over. So Daisy's going to get 1 from them, and then she's going to have to backfill those other 4 positions from people that are either already in the government and wants to transfer in, or from off the general public. So if you look, Daisy, you might be able to explain this better than I do, so I'll let you, the cost comparison.
Oh, okay. So the cost comparison, since everybody wants to know what it's costing saving, all I did with this cost comparison sheet that you have is I took the current budget for finance in the school system and the current budget in my office, and I added those together, and then the cost of centralized funding, centralized finance office is on your right. I can't speak to what the Board of Education's decisions are on their savings, of not having those positions. But I wanted you to have the information of what the budget numbers are. I think their current budget total for fiscal services is $568,000, roughly, and the remainder of that $946,900 is what my budget currently is. So on the right, for that proposed budget number that I have in this current budget, we will be able to, currently I have 4 full-time in my office, and which that includes myself, and 1 part-time. So I will be filling positions for 5, one of which will transfer from the DOE. One of the other 4 has already been filled. And then when my part-time overtime, I don't plan to replace that position. So if my part-time decides at any point that they're not going to work part-time anymore, I don't plan to fill that in the future. So that's why I'm doing 5 instead of less when I hire. The software cost in the centralized finance budget is a wash because I already had enough capacity to handle more employees with my current package. So that's a complete savings. There won't be any additional cost for software. I have built in office equipment, line 719. I have built in an additional $15,000 there for one-time costs, set up office equipment and furniture, anything that I might find that I need there. But I was able to purchase 2 workstations for out of the 5 that I will need in my current budget, what I have left. So some of that won't be, I don't anticipate every bit of that $15,000 being used. And I tried to do just a guesstimate of a minimal amount of increased cost in office supplies, postage. But other than that, that's pretty well the changes were mostly in the salary lines. Anybody have any questions?
When you talk about, we've already got the new facility.
Yeah,
Yes.
so the space plan, we have, for anybody who's been around the government for a long time, finance department, whether it be in the mayor's office or my office, has been in different locations in that building. We've occupied space that's currently in the conference room, we've occupied the space we occupy now. So that is our plan, is to take the current conference room at the Turner Building, the main conference room that we use all the time, convert that back into office space. Main reason to use that space is it was already set up for the technology. That's coming at no cost. We can go in there and plug up and we're good to go. Then we do have the back conference room, which y'all know is the voting room now, because that's the elections office is used. In the past, I worked with Vaughn, and I feel like that it wouldn't be any different with the current administrator to work in off times of the election when they're not using that space to still use the conference space. If not, we'll secure meeting space either at the chamber, large room, or conference room, or our small room here. So space has been handled for now. Anything else?
Connor?
So, based on this chart that you gave us, even though our number on the county side of things is going from 380 to 710, total of the county is coming down almost $250,000.
Correct.
It's an efficiency savings of $232,000.
Yeah.
Correct.
But the school board is not coming off that amount as far as, they're still spending the money.
They're not going to transfer that amount to the general fund to offset any costs to the general fund. What
But
they,
in the budget, they're still spending the money by either creating positions or filling positions they already have, is that correct?
that would be a question.
So, well, I mean.
That's what they said on the other night on that,
Right.
when you were there, yeah.
So, with what they're spending as far as county taxpayer money altogether, just from a little bit of math that I've done before, it looks like $331,657.
Total increase on our side.
Right, total increase on our side.
Yeah.
But they're saving it over there,
Yes.
Yeah,
or could save it.
could say.
Saving or using for other purposes.
Yeah. Yeah. Putting other positions.
It's just shit that we paid for, is all it is.
That's it.
It's being paid by taxpayer money, it's just coming out.
Yes, yeah, at the end of the day, it's all taxpayer money, whether it's federal, state, local, it's all our money. We either ship it to Washington, Nashville, or the Turner Building. Okay? Any other questions on the finance side? Property assessors, county trustee office, all these are just 3% in software increases, no major changes there. Circuit court, same there. General sessions judge, his state mandated raise and the 3% for his assistant. Drug court, that is one that we did, drug court and probation kind of go together. And probation is actually, we're shifting one position to full-time drug court and adding a probation, and it'll be reflected in probation, but there's grant money, shared salaries that offset that through that grant money. Chancery court, same there, state mandated raise and 3% for employees, and any software updates. Judicial commissioners, that's the one that we have questions about. So the question the budget committee had, and I'll take y'all's thoughts on, when we agreed to Judge Beller's $1,000 a week for judicial commissioners, and went that route, we never did discuss whether they get included with the 3% raises or whether that stays at that $52,000. So I would take any suggestions and questions, discussions on that, and what your thoughts are on that. I mean, like I said, it was set at a flat rate of $1,000, which is still a significant raise from where they used to be at $100 a day.
When did that go into effect?
In
Within the last-
the current budget.
In the current budget year,
I think it would be equitable for them to start getting 3% raises in the next budget year, so
Okay.
they got so much of a raise.
Okay.
Just-
yeah, cut that one out, cut that one back to 52 on that, okay? That's a suggestion, okay? All right. And like I said, we talked about it on the probation side, that it's shared stuff, and we're adding probation and shifting one to full-time drug there. Courtroom security stayed basically the same, maybe down a little. Courtroom security gone. That was a grant, my bad. Yes, that was a grant, you're right, it's zeros. On to the sheriff's department, you'll see the state mandated raises and the 3% across the board on those. I don't think there was any other increases across that one, was there? Maybe nursing hours, nursing hours, so nursing hours are, that's in the jail budget, right? Traffic control with, that's the one, that's the street lights at Bonnell. We've told y'all all that was a deal done 50-some years ago to get Bonnell here. The county would provide street lights on that road, and that pays that bill. Jail is the same deal. The raises and the nursing hours have gone up. Looks like about $43,000 per the contract. Correctional incentive program, that's the,
Question,
yes, sir.
why no cafeteria personnel in the jail?
Yes, ma'am.
So, when the sheriff presented his budget, he had requested to lump some of the salaries together. There was conversation back and forth between the budget committee and the sheriff's office about making sure that anybody that was combined, that they were at least designated by what you see, which is certified deputies. Am I saying that right? Is that certified? And keeping the SRO officers in a separate line. Basically and keeping, they didn't really mind to lump together those who were not of a specified rank. Yes.
Yeah. Well, you're about to hit it, so he did it for everybody, so he zeroed out sergeants, detectives,
Yes.
captains, all of that. Which makes, that makes sense on the sheriff's side, so.
Yeah.
So the cafeteria personnel are lumped in.
Yes.
With that. Okay.
In whatever their designation is, so those aren't positions that's been eliminated, but they've all been
That's just what I wanted to
put
clarify.
in categories, and the sheriff made the adjustment that the budget committee asked him to make as far as making sure that those designated folks were separated out appropriately.
And I'll just say this, I wondered, why he was the only department in 9.5 years categorized that way. Because other elected officials and department heads are lumped together and have the ability to work within their budget a little bit easier with that salary line, so I'm glad to see we're doing that.
Yep. Any other questions on the sheriff or the jail budget?
I think we keep the director of the sheriff in his line item, because it's, not necessarily by the county.
Sure.
The sheriff
Sheriff is-
The sheriff is
is-
in one separate line item, 101.
You see it there, the county 54, 110, 101, county official administrator, it stays the same. That's all right. Hey, that's what we're here for. All right, any other questions on the jail or sheriff's budget? All right, juvenile services, again, just the 3% in any software that may go up. Fire prevention and control, we did include in this budget, a $10 per call increase for firemen. They go from 30 to 40 on their calls. And that's all the change on that one, basically. Yes, sir.
Has there been any discussion in the budget committee or in the whole with the potential full-time fire, either core fire crew or full-time fire department across the board? I know eventually that's something.
That- we've talked about it. It's something that's coming, as far as talking about. And actually, when I sent this stuff for the salary study, Mr. Thompson, I did include a full-time fire chief and a couple of fire, just to see where that pay would range if we went down that road. Matt? No, okay. It's fast approaching. You know, I don't know if it's 3 years or 5 years or next year, but we're getting there.
You mentioned it, so I'm gonna ask, any update on the salary stuff?
It's here. We haven't processed it through yet, looked at it, but we'll have it for you. We'll get it out to you shortly. Because Daisy and I haven't even, we didn't even have, Daisy and Amanda and I have not even had a chance to look at it. Yeah, we've got it, just haven't looked at it yet, if that makes sense. Okay, rescue squad, their contributions stayed the same. EMA, you see the 3% across the board raise there. Coroner, it stayed the same. We did we did use our popper barrels again this year. It seems to be something coming on. That's one of those ones where we set a number and it could be less than we have, however, you know, we could come back to you at the end of the year and go, we need some more money there, depending on how many, corner calls we have. Commission, the public safety grant, that's gone, other public safety, gone. That is drug coalition grants that they have agreed to start, they're gonna keep their own books and, their own funds through there, where they're not pass-through funds for us anymore.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, it just got to the point where there was some questions about 1090 versus employees, and it was at the urging of some commissioners and the attorney, we decided that the best way to handle that is to allow them to go and be on their own. They're not losing any funding, they're just keeping their own books now, and we don't have to. All right, the other is other public safety, that's our dispatchers. That's 911 dispatchers, and the budget. Again, there's a 3% raise across the board there, and also there's revenue that comes from 911 pays us for a portion of those salaries. Local health center is the health department. That's our local budget there that we contribute to the health department on that one. Next is EMS. In that one, it's just basically the 3% across the board raises for that one. Another alcohol and drug that got gone away. Other local health services, another one gone away.
Oh, no, that's,
Yeah, that's fitness center, that's correct, that is our fitness center, my bad. Thank you. Get you on that, that's fitness center.
Mayor, I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Back to other public safety, there's no raises in that line item.
so that budget had more than enough in it to start with. I'm gonna reserve the right to check that number, but when I checked it last, I wanna make sure that I did look at that correctly. But there should have been enough to absorb that cost in there.
So they're gonna get a 3% raise.
Yes.
We just don't have to adjust the budget.
And if I see that I have left something out, I will have that updated by the time you see it again, but I believe there was enough to absorb that.
Under local health services, fitness center there. Appropriations to the state, that's contracts with government agencies, no change in that one. Waste pickup is a litter grant, no changes to that one. Other public health and welfare, that is the health department grant, that's money in, money out. Senior citizens, you will see an increase on the senior citizen. That is one where we're adding a person over there. Jan and I met, based on y'all's approval in June, Jan and I met with the development district, and right now, we're doing, Ms. Greta can attest to this, because she travels over, she spends a lot of time over there. Right now, we're doing frozen heat-up meals. Well, for the same money and basically the same service, we can start cooking a hot meal every day and providing it for them for about the same, you cost, but you get reimbursed through the development district for that cost, and I think it will, one, it's a better meal, and two, we think it will increase our participation at the, and they're also going through a new rebranding. It won't be the Smith County Senior Citizen Center, it will be the Smith County Activity Center or something like that. So they actually included, down to like 50-year-olds there, and I was like, well, that's good, and go eat. It is a part-time position, correct? So I think that's, that's something that we owe our seniors on that one. I think that's a good cost there. Libraries is just your regular across the board raises on that. There are some state funds that come in and offset some of that. I did get a quick update on that. The sidewalk going into the library has been repoured today, so the trip hazards should be gone, and the broken concrete there, so we got that done on that one. Parks and fair boards, that's our Paris budget, no change there. The only change there is, and there will be a change on that. There will be some money left out of finishing up Kids Central that we will roll forward into that budget to finish it out. We've already purchased, or we have purchase orders already for the fence, the concrete on the backside, and the mulch. The only thing I like is our lag. And I spoke with DTC this week on it, and they're going to start the engineering. We had a break-in at the soccer field the other day, so Nicholas Bissell and Jeremiah Wilson had asked me about running internet down to that area and putting in some cameras so we could watch that. And then a counterpart in Cumberland County, they were having some problems with some vandalism, homelessness around the courthouse. So what he did was he added cameras with motion sensors, and so after 10 o'clock, if you show up looking to do something not what you're supposed to be doing, light comes on. If you've not got out of there in so much time, a buzzer goes off. So we've put a lot of money, and a lot of people are excited about the coming of that Kids Central Park. So my plan is, Mr. Fields, you're driving by at 12 o'clock and them lights is on, you go, well, wait a minute, let me go down and see what's going on. With the TWRA boat ramp, the easiest thing would be is put gates up here and lock them at dark. But with the TWRA boat ramp down here, we can't really do that because you don't want somebody calling in the middle of the night, wanting you to let them out of the canoe ramp. So I think that may be the best plan, and that way, turn it off.
Not working.
Okay. we go. Can you hear me? All right, but yeah, that's the plan there, so there'll be some money that still has to stay in that budget and go forward for that portion of the project. Ag Extension Service, that is the one, that is our Ag Extension Service. There'll be the increase in salary, and there'll be an increase in the rent line for the simple fact of they are in the process, they will next week move out of this little building up here and moving into the new building that Kyle Owens Farms built in South Carthage, which will give them double the room and a much nicer and neater area.
They're going through the hiring process right now of doing the TSU Ag Extension agent.
Yep. So they'll have.
We're gonna be doing that in the next couple weeks.
Yep, they'll have that. They got grants they got money through Ag Extension at the state level to furnish the new office. So I met with Kyle last night. We're working on that lease agreement, get that done. Soil conservation, that's another one that could change depending on. So Mr. George Clay, chairman of their board, came to me and I went to their board meeting one night. There's a program out there that the state and USDA, I believe it's a combined of state and federal dollars, that you can get a grant for $21,000 that they will give you, and you can, what we can do is add $21,000 to this $11,000 that we already give and hire a full-time personnel to help out in the office and also learn to help out in the field. So it'd be a full-time position for that. And we talked about that, but again, they're still working on getting the paperwork for that grant. So as of right now, that stays the same, but we may come back with a budget amendment on that. There'll be money in and to change that one, so. Other agricultural and natural resources, that is here in this building, nothing changed on that. Tourism, that is our money that we put towards the ads for the tourism magazine. Industrial development, that is our JDBC funds that we put back. Other economic and community contributions, that is our that's our apportionment that we pay to the chamber. Veteran services, all that is just a 3% change there. Other charges, there's our building and contents insurance, our liability, and our vehicle and equipment insurance. It's up a little, just built in the estimate there. We took a big hit last year, so we're hoping it won't be as bad this year. Employee benefits, you see there. Longevity pay has gone up due to people staying longer, which is a good thing, and paying those out. Our medical, there's, you'll see the medical insurance where it increased with the 5% estimated increase in premiums. All those, rest of those, the miscellaneous is, yes, sir.
How many more employees did we have that took the insurance?
I want to say that number, I want to say we had 17 come on. I know that we currently have 114 employees in the general fund, 13 in the 207 fund, and of course the highway employees, I think most of them have it, so it should be something. I will say, you'll see a budget amendment in this current budget year for an adjustment in medical insurance coming based on those that took it in addition. And also that 58,600 207 health, where I have the HLPH beside of it, that portion is part of that grant that's for the health department that helps provide the insurance funding for that one person that, well, yeah, it's actually more than one person that pays for it. So that's part of it as well.
But we did the insurance, that was effective January 1, right? Of
Yes.
This year. So then we had 17 people who came on.
I think 17's correct, but I'll get you back up.
That's around 17. I was just curious, how many employees were actually affected by it that decided to take it after we agreed to do the free
Right.
full coverage?
Any other questions on those? The next two, the Rescue Plan Grant A and J are no longer with, all that's been suspended. In miscellaneous, that's where the health department grant is, and all tax relief, child care creation grant is inside there, where, Little Sunshine Academy got a grant through, IT contract is in there as well. And it looks like it actually is less, maybe a little less than last year's budget. Okay. So that gives you a grand total for county operations of $16,345,338. And if you look at our revenues, we're right at a $895,000 deficit. 864 of more expenses than revenue coming in. Now, again, we budget revenues on the conservative side and expenses kind of on, on a 3-year average, so that could balance out. And basically what that is, best way I can explain that to you, a lot of that is the 3% raise, but it also means that our fund balance grew. So you're basically, what your fund balance growth this year is paying for your raises next year. So it kind of offsets it. Now, if if your fund balance don't grow, you don't get the raises, so that draw is not as big on that side. Estimated fund balance at the end of June is 8.2. So if you take 8.2 and if worst case scenario we get hit with 890 and everything goes the way it is and it's 895, you're looking at a 7.3. By resolution, we are supposed to have 30% of the budget in the bank before we start the year. So that if you look at 16,345 and just saying that's the same budget next year, we would need about just shy of $5 million in the bank. So that leaves right at $2.3 million in the bank to the good. Couple of things we talked about in budget committee meeting just a minute ago, and both of them passed. So I told you sometime back that we applied for a courthouse grant for $2 million, didn't get it. Well, they come back, there's another one for $2 million. So we're in the process of applying for it. Hopefully everybody that needed one got one the first time, and we'll have a better chance. So we're working on just basically, it was a change. At that one, the first one was all about creating a space for a Wi-Fi cafe and to be able to do public health screens. The next one is more geared towards workforce training. So we would set aside one of the rooms in the courthouse to do workforce trainings and partner with people to do trainings to build a workforce on that side. That one's supposed to be awarded in September, so fingers crossed, praying that one hits. We're gonna throw everything we can at that one. We're tweaking the grant on some places. We're gonna do maybe some support letters from legislatures to kind of help us on that one. Hopefully we'll get that. Worst case scenario, we don't get that. So you got that the $2.3 million we talked about. I've been working with Boughton Engineering about getting some estimates on windows and replacing the HVAC system in the old courthouse. That almost has to be done because we got leaks. We're blowing every time the wind blows, it's blowing another window out. Without heating and air, we're having to keep the water turned off. We do have a busted pipe in there right now anyway, so the water's off. When it gets hot or gets cold, it affects some of that paint, so you get that problem. So the preliminary estimate came back for replacing every window in there and building the frames and putting in energy efficient windows was just a little over $200,000 for windows. Boughton was scared, but I was like, that's a lot better than I thought, actually. So I was teased that. The preliminary estimate, just a rough ballpark estimate on the central heating and air, there's like 3 or 4 different ways you can go with that. Was at the low end about $650,000, on the high end about $800,000. So if you go to the high end, so $1 million. And what I asked the budget committee to do is, I didn't want to include it in the budget because we don't know till we know on that grant. But what I would say is, could we just hold on to that $1 million till we see what happens with the grant? And if the grant don't come, can we come back with a fund balance draw and a budget to do the windows and at least the air conditioning at that time? Just to, we'll know, like I said, we'll know in September where we're getting it, and that would there. So that takes $1 million of that. The other $1 million, I'm sure you've all been talking to rescue squad people and such. Rescue squad bought a piece of property from the Agee family over on the bypass in Gormsville. It's about 3.5 acres. They came to us and wanted to, they bought the land, they can't afford to build a building because we got the CDBG grant for the new rescue truck apparatus that's got to go on the south side. So right now we're kind of got the cart before the horse, don't got a really place to put it right now. So they came and wanted to know if we could, if basically they donated the land, would the county build a building? And so what we got to looking at, and Crockett, you're here, you can help me with it, build a multi-purpose emergency service building that has 4 bays, is that right, Jeff? 4 bays. 4 drive-through bays, that one would be dedicated to EMS, one dedicated to possible future fire, and 2 for rescue squad. With also a 3,200 square foot common area that would be living quarters for EMS. Jeff says that they're coming to a point where he thinks that in the future, along with full-time fire, that we're with the call volumes, we may have to add an ambulance on the south side. So you have 2 crews in there. So we would have bedrooms for 2 crews of ambulances. And going back to what you were talking about, Connor, the full-time fire is going ahead and building the living quarters for a full-time fire, and also having for a rescue department, and then all the things that go along with that. You got to have a male, female bathroom. You got to have the showers, the kitchen, the living area for that. Also, there would be room for storage for each department to put their stuff and lock it away. Preliminary estimates we've been talking and looking is right around $600,000. Builds the building, paves the parking lot, does all your utilities. Like Jeff, they asked Jeff in the budget committee about furnishing that. Well, right now we don't need furnishings on the fire side and the other side. Jeff has all the furnishings currently at the EMS station in Gormsville, which leads me to the next part. If we get this done, if we approve this and get this done, Jeff would we would sell that. Jeff's preliminary estimate thinks it's at least worth $250,000 with property values. That's probably pretty close, maybe a little more. Jeff did also agree that if we didn't sell it for that, he would buy it for $200,000. So we have that already in our pocket. That bidding starts at $200,000, which we would use to offset the cost of that. Or, as we also determined there, we could take that money and make some upgrades at Station 1 to where we could add on for Central District. Central District fire trucks are currently in there and it's kind of cramped, so we could add on some space there as well if we had that money. So, y'all all know we have to be creative and make things work, but that's just an idea we had. Again, that is one of them where, the questions we're asking budget meeting. Well, what about the property and how's that going to work? There's still some things that we need to work out and work out with the rescue squad and how we're going to transfer that property, getting with the city of Gormsville and how that's going to work. So I said it in the meeting in there. It's I'll quote my favorite philosopher, Jerry Clower, when he's talking about stopping that banana train that night. We ain't caught the possum. We just want to know if you wanted one. So I guess I'm asking is, would you, if we come back with a plan with the promise that we would fund that going forward, if it makes sense and it's a good deal for us, is for both of those, the courthouse and that one. And that would, that's pulling from fund balance. And we'd still be in good shape outside of, something major happening. I don't want to budget it yet because there's too much in the air. So.
Just a question.
Yes, sir.
If we do the courthouse, would we be able to use that building for office space.
That is my long-term goal. I would love, especially if we get the 2 million grant. If we get the 2 million grant, then we'll do the heat and air and the windows, and then we'll take the rest of that money and update it, you know, stay within the historical registers, but get it to where it's usable, because you'll have to have the room for the health screenings and the workforce training. I would love for this body to be able to meet there again and convert that second floor back into a full-time committee room for the commission. I see moving the mayor's office back over there. I may have to hire Ghostbusters, but, you know, we talked about letting Daisy move back over there, but she's concerned about ghosts, so. So we may have to charge in there to de-ghost the courthouse for Daisy, who's finance there.
I will.
So, yeah, my long-term plan is to make, I mean, it'd be silly and a waste of taxpayer money to just put money into a building that's not being used. That's my goal, is what can we do to make it usable? Now, if we just have the million and can do that, again, like I said in the chamber speech tonight, we may have to do this in phases. We may have to scrape up the money again to figure out how to do the rest of it. So I'd love to get that grant and be able to do it all at one shot, but if not, we'll figure out from there and be creative. But any questions, or, and we may, I'll get with Jeremy, we may put that in a resolution somehow tied to it, that we say we're setting aside this much fund balance. If this goes forward, we'll figure out the legalities on that side. Question? Bish? Who?
If you get across the plumbing on, I know that'd be third.
Some of that is included in that heating and air, is updating that plumbing, because if you're gonna do the boiler system, you gotta have new plumbing, yeah. Yeah, that needs to, because it's all iron, I mean, the plumbing and the electric will have to be upgraded, so that's gonna take a big chunk, you know, that'll take a chunk of that, if we get the grade, that'll take a chunk of that million. I mean, yeah, there's not, the list is long for that, because, you know, we got pipes that are, iron pipes that are split right now, so. But yes, that's not included, some of that's included in the HVAC, but not all of it. Any other questions on that, or the 101s? Billy?
On the 3% pay raise, that's pay raise 3% for each employee that 101 takes care of.
Yes, sir.
It won't be divided up, it's one get more than three.
If you approve this budget, you're approving a 3% increase to salaries. At that point in time, as we've just discussed many times, what an elected official does with his budget at that time, you can't say, you can't. I mean, there's no way of doing it. I mean, right, wrong, or indifferent, fair or unfair, that is the way the rules are wrote. All your funding is 3% added to their pay raises.
You're saying elected officials.
Yeah, or department heads, either one, yeah. It's kind of, which would fall, or his department heads, yeah, so the elected official could approve off on his department heads. Any other questions?
Elected officials come to us and request that.
Don't have to. No. Does not have to. He could do it, he or she could do it out of a courtesy, but no, they don't have to. Once you approve that 3%, they can do with it how they see fit. But again, I mean, the salary study comes back and they're out of whack, then that's on them. Then they got to figure out, you know, they really need to look at what they're doing and how they're doing it and adjust it from there. It kind of puts it back on that elected official to make sure everything's balanced. Any other questions, Connor?
I think the courthouse is, in my opinion, the prettiest building, it's one of the prettiest buildings in the county. I would love for us to get back to the point where we're able to use it
Yes.
for government purposes, instead of just sitting there,
Yeah.
getting further and further dilapidated, where it's going to cost more and more to fix it.
Right.
So I think even if we can only take, even if we're only with windows,
Yeah.
something needs to be done.
Absolutely.
That stem the tide of dilapidation.
I don't want to be the mayor at the time, and you guys don't want to be the commissioner at the time that let the courthouse fall in on itself. So, yeah, that's something, I mean, it's a historic building and we need to preserve it. So, yeah, I agree with you. Any other, Tim?
If you were to get that chicken contract, we still be putting more into it, or
We could, I mean,
if that was an option?
if that's an option, yeah, I mean, I'm going to continue working to get estimates to see where we're at, and that way, when we get the grant, if it's only gonna cost $2.2 million to do everything we'll do, then that $1 million will either go back and be there for next year, or we can appropriate it for something else that we need at that time. We can find a way to use $1 million on buildings. I mean, I don't know how many, y'all seen the buckets inside the Turner building and that roof, so it needs replacing as well. Any other questions?
Speaking of that, have you got a price on that?
Somewhere around $350. Yeah. I asked somebody to price putting rafters in a sloped roof and get away from the flat roof, and they started talking about engineering studies and weight bearing, and I was like, well. So, but if we find a bucket of money, then we go that route.
This does not require tax increase.
Not at this time, no. Not on the one-on-one side. Nope.
Is there any way that you might look at, possibility of grant is there, but again, it might not come through,
Right.
Raise the property tax initially, give us $300,000 for construction. These buildings we're talking about now,
We're open to all options. I mean, that's something that, if that's, something that as a budget committee, we would discuss and bring back to the full commission. If that's something that they approve and want to do, go forward with. I understand. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. Any other questions or discussions? All right, we'll move on to the next target. Next is highway. Drug funds in the middle. Daisy, you speak to that. The sheriff has agreed to buy one car out of that. Is that correct? Am I not? Okay.
There's restrictions on this funding, that the sheriff's department follows with what they can spend that on. The back page of it will show you that they ended June 30th of 23 with, 259,000, so he's budgeting for that additional patrol vehicle in that budget, and that fitting of one. And looks like their fund balance that'll only affect their fund balance by a very small amount.
Any other questions on the drug fund? Next is the roads. Mickey, you want to come up? Well, we can go through it. Basically, it's the same as what we talked about earlier. It was the 3% raises for his people across the board on that. His revenue for the fuel tax is actually down just a little bit, isn't it? And from what they're telling y'all, it's not going to get any better for.
It's been about the same for the past 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. On the fuel side, tax side, so. One thing I'll stop right there and talk about. So, 2 years ago, we were able to pull $1 million from our ARP funds and give Mickey, it was $1.5 million, and give Mickey, and he was able to do some tar and chipping, bought chip spreader, and did the road study out of that. Last year, we did him another $1 million in capital projects for oil and rock and equipment and whatever he needed to do to do roads. As I told them, and I've said numerous times, we've dug up every mason jar and looked in every couch cushion, and we just laid out the scenarios with our fund balance. we don't have another $1 million just laying around to give him this year. And that concerns me, because I truly believe he's making some improvements and getting, I mean, it's still, I mean, oil and rock goes up every day. I mean, it's slow and steady. What are you doing, Mickey, about 25 to 30 miles a year?
Been averaging about 28 past 2 years.
Yeah, 28 miles of tar and chip. Last year we got the $2.5 million from the state in one-time money, and you were able to pave how many miles? 12.
Miles of that.
12 miles of pave.
Paving is about 200,000 a mile, and the oil chip gets somewhere around 50 to 60,000 a mile. And it's just gonna keep getting higher and higher. And it's still, the state aid money has to be used on the state aid roads, so not every road is qualified to be able to spend that money that the governor gave. That was 15 years worth of state aid money at one time. We get $166,000 a year from the state, put into the state aid payment. So, that's not even enough to do 1 mile a year. You have to settle that money, for several years just to build one road.
So yeah, it'd take 2 years to save up enough to do 1.5 miles, basically. If prices stayed the same as they are today.
They're already saying, last meeting we had, got on there that, it's going up.
I said all that to say, it was discussed in the budget committee, was a $50 wheel tax that goes directly to road capital projects. We were somewhere around, you can help me, Amanda, 20,000 registered vehicles.
I think we did, between 25 and 26 maybe last year.
Okay. Well,
But that also includes trailers and all of that
okay.
stuff too, so I would say
I think
20.
the cars was, I
Yeah.
think when we looked at cars was somewhat, vehicles and such was around 20,000 vehicles. So a $50 wheel tax would be $1 million. Again, nothing's been decided. That was just a suggestion to continue his growth. What was talked about is if you pass that resolution, that it goes strictly to a highway capital project fund that he could buy his oil and rock and any equipment that he may need. A tile gets washed out or something like that. So, okay.
One thing, I was thinking too, which, like the road I'm on, it's already been done, it's already because of the storm.
Right.
We can't keep up with the storm, keep the road, by the time he gets through his list, we're gonna be back on dirt road.
Yeah.
We're running on
Yeah.
mud and flat tops in the left.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and every one of you, me, and everybody, you hear it from your constituents every day. Fix the roads, fix my roads. Well, you just heard. I mean, it costs a lot of money to do what we need. I mean, we saw it in the study. It's $60 million, and that was last year. I mean, for every one that you've got to that fair condition, the other ones have dropped off down to worse condition. So you're never really getting ahead.
Infrastructure, you're never gonna be done with infrastructure, you're never gonna be complete, it's always gonna be there, it's always gonna be a cost.
Right.
The original budget they would have, there's like $360,000 to do oil and chip. That's very little whenever you own, we got 451 miles of road, probably, I'll say 370 miles of it is oil and chip. And, we haven't even talked about our state aid roads that we actually own, they're ours. We don't have no money to do any of those. Club Springs Road is 8 miles long, that's $1.6 million to do one road. We have 110 bridges that's over 20 feet long, that's state inspected and state mandated in Smith County alone. One of them that was damaged during the flood is already estimated at $1.7 million to do those. We're not even talking about the ones that's probably another 100 of them that's under 20 feet long that we own, that we have, that we can't use state aid money on. And, with the storm water study that we're talking about doing, just like the road study, I think the storm water study will come back even higher than what the road study was.
Yeah. I agree with you on that, so.
How many would we have shut down here the last inspection? How many bridges just got shut down because of the last storm, like one or two?
We had one that was, requested to be shut down. I got in touch with them, asked them about the recommended fixes, to be able to keep it open to be in compliance. They told me their one was behind the post office on Planet Shade right there. We went over and, a concrete did work, one concrete, barriers outlet. We, actually, I called in a contractor, that morning. He met me over there. We went in, poured the concrete back under it, got it back into compliance, even though it is at a 5-ton weight limit. And the regular, and whenever it was, they would send out a, recommendation of what it costs to replace it. That was like $750,000. We got another one on Bullhorn, same thing. It's already at a 5-ton weight limit. One of the beams during the inspection showed some rust and some flaking. They wanted to shut it down because of that. I called and asked them what we could do. They sent me the plans on what we could do. We actually had to go over, put a steel leg underneath that beam, pour concrete around it. You have to take pictures, send it back to the state. They send the inspector back out to look, and luckily the fixes that we did, was able to keep both of them open, until next time at a 5-ton weight limit. That bridge there, you're looking at another $750,000 to $1 million to do it. The one going up, right off Highway 80 right here on Kent Bottom Lane, the storm actually, washed one of the pillars out from under it. I had two that was going in the friendship hall that was on their, number 1 list to be replaced. We've already had the bids put in the paper, to take bids on replacing those bridges. When this one happened at, right there on off of Highway 80 on Kent Bottom, we actually had to pull the plug on those two and focus on this one. I've got a hold of the engineers, they're already doing the plans and everything on it. And right now, it's estimated at $1.7 million to replace that. So, I mean, once you use up all your state aid money, you have another one to go down, there'll just be, a lot of roads closed. And like the one in Pleasant Shade, I told them, I said, you know, if the church caught on fire right there, you can sit there looking at the fire department, but they can't get there, they'd have to wait for the one to come out and feed it, come over there and try to put it out. And we don't have the money, by no means, to even think about building, $1 million bridges as fast as we need them.
I think one thing you have to look at too is these storms are getting worse. It seems like every one of them, the rains are more, it's more frequent, and I worked for the highway department in 92, 93, when Ralph Cole was replaced. And, the county commission, county mayor at the time, never gave him money. There was probably not money at the time. And it's not been given money, since then. And, our road study shows $4 million behind if we do the work ourselves.
Right.
That ain't hiring Rogers Group, Vulcan, or anybody else to come in here, contractor to come in here and do it. You can double that or triple that if we had to hire it done.
Right.
What happens when the sheriff can't get to a lady that her husband's beating her, or, a man's having a heart attack because and the EMS can't get to him, because the bridge is, can't cross it no more, and they gotta drive 15, 20 miles around the bridges on roads that's not road, car work. So we as a commission are gonna have to do something about these roads, our bridges, for the safety of each one of our constituents. Because, you close one road, you have to drive 10 miles around just to get to Carthage. When it's closer to go to Alexandria, I'm in District 3. We're gonna lose revenue going into DeKalb County.
Right.
Or into Wilson County.
Right.
When it's just as close to go to Watertown as it is to go to Carthage.
Right.
When you gotta drive 15 miles out of line. And so, I don't know what that magic number is, but it needs to be something. done. You know, I'm all for Kid Central, and I'm all for fixing, the courthouse and all of those kind of things. But, you know, my mama lives on the road, and I want an ambulance to get to her if she can. And I'm satisfied everybody here has that same concern about their loved ones.
Yeah.
I'd rather spend that money on, instead on Kid Central. Kids can be taught like we were, sit down and watch the ball game. You don't have to go down there to Kid Central and play. You know, we need to spend money or it affects everybody in our county. And whether that's to build a road, build a bridge, or go out and get grants or whatever we gotta get, that's what we need to be focused on.
Even with $1 million from last year, doing 28 miles of oil and chill a year, you know, with 350 miles of oil and chill road, it's still gonna take you 10 years or better to get all of them oil and chill.
Kent, there's only one way in, one way out.
Yeah, there's probably at least 10 families on the other side of that, but.
I was told the other day, the ambulance was supposed to be going there.
But where do you get a million seven to fix it? You know?
Oh, he's robbing Peter to pay Paul because he's taking away from the friendship hall to put it there. Yeah.
And, you know, like I said, infrastructure is very expensive, and, just like he said, you know, some of the oil and chip, we've already seen it, we've done some, and as soon as we get done, Ron, plug your ears, but they auction off every bit of the land in there, you know, they built 15 houses in there, so you just invested $100,000 in one road. They come in and build, you know, 15 houses, all the concrete trucks, all the block delivery, and, you know, then you gotta start over. And, you know, I don't see you saying there, you know, we're selling 10 building permits a year. I don't see it slowing down.
No, Mike said I talked to Mike today, we're ahead on building permits.
And, you know, and if you start, like some of the other counties, you know, they switched over instead of oil and chip, you know, they're doing all asphalt, you know, if it's 14 foot wide, they pave it 14 foot wide. Well, the only problem we have in our county, we have 4 dump trucks, and, you know, if you're leaving, Pleasant Shade or Lancaster, you've gotta go all the way to Lebanon to get asphalt. By the time you make it back here, I mean, you can't make any time. So you're gonna have to, if you move to, you know, using asphalt, you're gonna have to have double that money, double your truck, double all your expenses is gonna double, you know, to be able to move into a different product.
Yeah. I told Mickey last week, we were at the conference in Gatlinburg, and he and I were standing outside talking, and I told him that I loved him and I'd take a bullet for him, but I get depressed every time I talk to him. And he came back with, I don't know how many of you remember, so I've renamed him P.I. because if you remember Lonesome Dove, where Gus got shot in the leg, and he was telling P.I. how to go do it, and he couldn't, and Gus said, "Dang, you're depressing to talk to, P," and that's what I call Mickey now, is P. I have a question back to Connor.
So we currently fund roads through mostly the state through gas tax, or it's from Smith County residents, but gas
Well,
tax.
not necessarily. I mean, it's kind of like the same with everybody.
It's pulled from the state. but-
Yes, yes.
Smith County residents pay it just like everybody else. So through gas tax from the state and a little property tax.
That's
So I think it's just fair that we have vehicle registration also be paying a part. But there's a lot of people who either moving in here to these apartment units, things like that, and they pay their property tax through their rent, things like that, but they're not directly contributing to some of the roads. I think the wheel tax is probably the most fair way to get everybody having the skin in the game across the board on the roads. So I think the $50 wheel tax is more appropriate and really just keeps us, it doesn't do anything. it just keeps
I
us
mean,
on
it's
top.
like-
So it's not anything special, it's just maintaining.
Right. I mean, again, one of those depressing days, Mickey and I were in my office, and you know, we talked about the million, but he probably needs 4 just to get him to where he can make a difference? Justin?
You know, the benefit of giving that million a couple times to Mickey is Mickey's shown and proven
He has.
he's gonna put the money to good use.
Yes.
That it's going, and I've asked him repetitively, and, you know, I've asked him to give a 5-year plan, and he's given it to me. If we were to give you extra money, what would you do with it? So he's got a game plan. He's been doing the work, he's shown us to do the work, we've got to figure something out. But I'll be honest, as I'm sitting here listening to it, and you're hearing these numbers, because, you know, we think about the road, you throw the bridges in. I'll just say this, is $50 even enough?
No.
So,
But where are you gonna stop? What's the next number? That's the thing that we kept trying to go with budget and finances. I mean, you can throw all the money you want with it, but you've gotta be able to spend it and have the man hours to do it. So if you
Mickey,
start
can you spend
going-
$1.5 million?
Easy.
Can you spend $2 million? So, I mean, you know, that's, and here, let's be honest, if we're gonna consider a wheel tax, we're gonna get it one time.
Right.
This commission will only do it one time.
Right.
And $1 million now versus $1 million, it ain't gonna be $1 million in 5 years. Now, yes, there'll be a little bit of growth, but let's be honest, whether it's growth in vehicle registrations or growth in property tax, growth money is never enough, and we gotta get that out of our minds, that growth is always gonna be enough, because it's not. And we've got to look at upping our game when we need to. And like I mentioned on, this is going to be for vehicles that are going to be driving on the roads, and the money's going to be going into capital projects, and I think it's key. It's not going to be paying other people or extra people or hiring extra staff. It's going to be for materials to go to the road.
But in his defense, I will say, if you give him $1.5 million, $2 million, he ain't got enough people to spend. You don't need more people, won't you, me? Yeah, so, I mean, it's a,
But he could shift that of what, I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it's-
He could alter his 131 budget. You know,
and nobody here tonight is just tickled to death to think to raise a fee or a tax or any of that. Nobody, I mean, nobody wants to do that. But Scotty said, I want an ambulance to be able to get to my family. I want, if somebody's trying to break my house, I want Junior not to have to go around the bridge. I want families like on Kemp Hollow. That scares me to death that there's 10 people over there that we possibly can't get an ambulance or a fire truck to.
What's the liability? Okay, we're
Yeah.
here as a county government.
Right.
That is supposed to be taking care of these roads. You know, the people in the Kemp Holler, they're paying property taxes, they're paying land taxes. I mean, all of those kind of
Yes.
taxes are there.
Yeah.
And they deserve the same credit and same ability for that ambulance or that sheriff's department,
Right.
whoever to get down that road.
That's right.
And
That's
if
right.
that bridge closes, they're done.
That's right.
They have to go to a whole day.
Yeah. That's, yeah.
You know, and we have those cases could be across this whole county. And there's gotta be a way. And, you know, and it didn't start last night.
No, we didn't
Like I
get,
stated earlier, I started in the county in '92, and we were behind then. And Ralph Cole went through Possum High, did every road to get the dust down. That's what he called it. Went and scraped all the gravel off of it, shot dirt, mud, the oil on mud, and put chips on it. And everybody was ticked
yeah,
because it settled the dust.
Right.
But now, we're gonna have to kick the dust back up to get some roads fixed. Because if we don't, then we're for nothing. I've got grandkids, and, you know, they're gonna have kids that we're responsible for fixing the process today.
yeah.
And if we don't start today, then who is? You know, that was one of my biggest things about coming on this county commissioner, is to help get these roads done, make sure that we're doing everything fairly and right. And we're not doing enough on the roads. And it's public safety. So what happens when the ambulance can't get down that hall? Then I'm
Bad
gonna
day.
be sued.
attorney's not here, so I can't answer that question, but, no, I mean, you can be sued today for anything, so yeah, yeah,
Absolutely.
so.
You know, everybody's worried about that kind of thing. We need to really focus. And $1 million ain't gonna be the answer, on when it comes to how it's hard to find.
I agree with that. Justin?
I was gonna say, we're not doing anything tonight anyway.
No, we're not. We're,
This is-
yeah,
So that all the commissioners are aware, even if a wheel tax is gonna be considered, the budget recommended it, even if they brought it forth in June, it can't be passed just in the June meeting.
2 readings.
So it's.
You'd go through 2 readings, and then you wait, there's a time limit to where it can be petitioned to be sent to referendum, and it takes 10% of the total vote in the last governor's race.
I mean, so if we've got time, if we want to hear, you know, if there's concerns from the public, positive or negative,
Yeah.
you know, we'll have time to do that. And I would suggest, in my opinion, we do a public hearing too.
Alicia?
What is our current bill tax? No,
$15 that goes towards
School, or jail.
jail debt. So that's bringing in roughly $300,000. Right?
Where's it go, Mike?
Goes through the jail bond debt from 2000, it's about 15 years old.
how much longer do we have on that?
About 7 years. About 7 years.
Real quick, Valley, has to be sometime in August or November.
Yeah,
Valley.
yeah.
We don't have one next year, but no.
No, if it gets petitioned and has to go, if you guys decide to pass something on 2 readings and then it does get petitioned, you're probably looking at November.
But we can pass it ourselves.
What- Yeah, you can pass it
ourselves.
twice. If it don't get petitioned, it goes into effect. Or you can pass a resolution and send it straight to the back.
We can pass it ourselves by 2/3 majority.
That's correct, twice.
Or send it to referendum if it's 50%. But that doesn't take effect until much later, it'd be either August or November.
Right.
So you have to see how much time you've got. Then you put on the ballot.
Yeah,
You know that.
I'll find that out. I will get with the election commission tomorrow and find that out what the dates are.
Also, when you talk about putting it on the ballot, and you want to get passed, you've got a lot of people who live in city limits that, they don't, some of them don't drive these county roads.
Right.
You know how they're gonna vote, so you're gonna have to drive their votes somehow, some way, such as you either voted in or you want to see it.
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, I would think if you're gonna go down this road, then we would owe it to the citizens to set up town halls with the members of those, wherever, you know, the districts, even everybody, Mickey, everybody, and come in and just lay it out, you know. I go back to several years ago when the gas tax was being hotly debated, and I came over here and Governor Haslam, and at that time, Mr. Coble was there, and they went through a presentation, and, you know, no secret, I'm a low tax and small government conservative, and I was against it, but when the road I lived on at that time was one of the ones they were showing that, and this was before I was mayor, was one that needed fixing. I was like, you know, that's maybe that's not as bad as I think it is. So, yeah, roads are not everybody uses you every day. They have the ability, but most of the time you're dealing with folks that don't probably pay taxes anyway. Jeff, God forbid, you don't see everybody, but just about everybody, even in the cities, at some point in time, you're going to drive on a county road. And so those affect everybody. Your school buses every day drive on them. Scotty, you said it a minute ago, we do this stormwater study, I'm gonna be scared to death of what the bridges are gonna look like, and what they're gonna tell us about some of the bridges that we ain't even thinking about, that says, hey, you probably don't need to run a school bus, fire truck, or an ambulance over this bridge, much less a car. So, again, there's those days that Mickey calls me and says, hey, I need you to go look at something, and I've got to the point now where when I look at the phone, I go, oh God, here's something. And you go look at a bridge and you go, ugh. So, and we sit in budget finance, and you sit there and you go, our one-on-one budget's $16 million. Now, some of that's not recurring. That's some grants and some building projects in there. And you go, well, where does call it $14 million? Where's $14 million go? Well, at the end of the day, you look back at what we've done as commissions and mayors, and so we've tried to take care of. We're, as Mr. Crockett talked about, and Junior could say things, we're still behind as far as our emergency services pay. We've tried to increase that. We've tried to increase benefits because it's getting harder and harder to recruit and retain those employees. So you try to take care of that, and then we've been lucky. We've got a few grants. We've not got what we're what you call a transitional county. There's distressed, there's at risk, there's transitional, and then that next step, I call us a middle class county because we're not distressed or at risk. Governor Lee, one of his focuses when he came in was on those distressed and at risk counties. A lot of that grant money goes to those counties. We apply for grants, we don't get them. I mean, our median income is really good. Our people, whether they working here or drive out of the county every day, the people that work make a good living. We're top 10, 15 in the state as far as what our people make as far as wages. So that prohibits a lot of grant money to come to us. Now, we've had a lot of direct allocations. We got $800,000 in a direct allocation from the governor. My second year, that's when we bought the new engine or the new tanker for Central District. We bought some rescue squad equipment. We bought the distributor for Mickey and them and some tractors. The $340,000 we got last time is what we used to pay for the Kids Central, so we didn't have to pull money from that. So we've as a commission, as elected officials, we have tried our best to be as frugal and conservative in protecting our tax dollars that of the people we represent. Some of you were, some of you, the big majority weren't here in 2019 when we had to go through what we had to go through. So to say that I'm just giddy about talking about taxes, I don't like it. It was a bad time. But at the end of the day, to provide just the basic services for our citizens every day, it costs what it costs. I mean, and we talk about cuts and cutting back. Well, in this handy dandy chart here, that let's just looking at 101. So public safety, 31% of our tax dollars in our budget's in public safety. Anybody want to cut public safety? Everything else is far, I mean, there's things in there that are, some of that state mandated, and some of it is there. But I mean, when you start looking at it, I mean, what are you going to cut there? I mean, it's hard decisions, Dan.
Another thing you talked about earlier, we're basically struggling just to keep our buildings.
Right. Yeah,
Talking about digging and scraping.
Yeah.
And as that roof is leaking.
Yeah.
It's all the water.
Exactly.
350 can go up, the water goes through the rafters.
Right.
Out the line.
Right.
And it causes a danger to them.
Yeah.
We're struggling all around, not only roads.
Yeah. Buildings.
Keep the things up.
Yeah. Exactly.
Stuff being.
And it's not that we don't care, not worried about it. I mean, we've only got so much money, we can only do so much. I mean, every one of us at our house, there's lots of things we'd like to do, and I won't pick on wives, but, you know, they have honeydews and won't list, and, you know, even husbands have honeydews and won't list, but, you know, what can I afford this year? What can I do this year? I mean, and that's, we've tried to take advantage of every opportunity, and I'm saying, you know, again, I don't see because we look at it a lot, now, we can talk about Washington and Nashville, and there may be fluff and waste inside there, but at the local level, everything we do has to be done. I mean, it has to be. Local government is the most closest to the people government, so we have to answer and take care of those problems. And, you know, again, it takes money to do that. So, any other? Just.
I was going to say, everybody's got to keep in mind too, our tax base is really, really low.
Yeah.
We're the bottom third of the state in property tax. We don't max our local option sales tax.
No.
It's only at 2%.
Right.
Most every other county around us in the Upper Cumberland is maxed out.
9 and 3. Yeah. There's
We only
3 quarters.
got a $15 wheel tax. I think all of one county around us has a higher wheel tax than that already. Is there a county around us that has a lower? Macon County has a lower property tax, but they're the only one that touches us that has lower property tax. And I think everybody else around us has 2.75 on local option sales tax.
Yep.
So those are things to keep in mind is we've been very, very, very fiscally conservative with our taxes for a long time here, and that's been for better and worse.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's kept the tax rate low, but we've got behind on a lot of other stuff. And again, it just turns my stomach because, you know. Yes, sir.
I know we've got a lot more to get to, so I think we've squeezed every penny just about as hard as we can squeeze it to get as much money out of the current revenues as we have. So I would like to see budget committee come back with at least the $50 wheel tax that was discussed. And again, that's the bare minimum of us trying to do what we can do. So that's what I would like to see.
Another thing that we looked at, just to be in all transparency, another thing we looked at is, right now it's a $750 land use permit. We talked about doubling that to go into $1,500 to pull a permit to build a house inside Smith County. That's something that can be passed by resolution. There's no that. So that's at our current rates. If you double it, you're looking at another $75,000, $80,000. It ain't $16 million. It ain't much, but you know what it does? It pays for that codes enforcement officer that can do the job to, again, protect their neighbors, that their neighbors is piling up junk or doing something that don't need to be done. 2 years ago, before this commission came in, we passed a private act enacting a 5% hotel motel tax. We set that on the state, and got it passed through the Secretary of the State. There was somehow it didn't never get through revenue, so it hadn't been collected. So we're in the process of working to get that start to be collected. Part of that will be collected on your Airbnbs and stuff like that. We'll collect it through the state, and they'll send that back to us. And then the local hotels and such will have to pay that to the county. So that's something we've talked about. Another way of upping revenue. To sit here and tell you tonight what that would be, I don't know. I mean, we'd have to do some studies on it, but it would be something. I mean, it might offset the Chamber of Commerce contribution. So I mean, there's $50,000 more you can use somewhere else. So I mean, just being creative.
That's revenue generated by the county.
Correct. And it's also one of them when you go to. Casey, you just got back from Destin. Did you happen to look at what your hotel occupancy tax was on your bill? You just paid it, right. And the city of Destin said thank you. Matt.
So just to clarify, budget finance did pass that and asked for a resolution to be brought forward to the commission for the $50 bill tax for the highway fund. So
we did do that.
it's already been done. But if you want us to consider something else that's forward, let us know.
Yeah. Speak. Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be the one to say it needs to be more. he's had $1 million extra for 2 years. And does the public even realize it?
If your road was done, you did, but like Danny said, the storm, his road was done and the storm took it back out.
You know,
So-
Why are they already trying to move the glove, trying to get around to your house? Because of all the damage that was done before the control was there. Now it's already washed out the side of the glove, and then you gotta hang back to the rock, hopefully you don't catch a tire. Especially the school buses.
Right. Right.
That one spot there, we can take $1 million and fix that one spot.
Yeah.
That'd be Enigma.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Would $1 million fix that?
I doubt it.
I mean, here's the deal, everybody wants the roads fixed, they want bridges to be operational, they want to be able to access everything, but you gotta fund it. And you gotta, you know,
Listen, $100 wheel tax,
ain't pixie dust.
that's, I mean, just for me, I got me and all my bunch, that's $500. For me. So, I mean,
Put the pitch patch and holes trying to make it smooth, drain is gone.
yeah,
It's just,
yeah,
might as well take the money out of pocket, just go to the ditch with
yeah.
it.
Well, right.
Well,
Well, and
he's doing the best of what he got.
And to what, and again, to what Scotty was talking about, heavier storms. I don't know that they're heavier storms, but I remember in the 2010 flood when it flooded the way it did, and my father-in-law, who worked construction like you did for all them years, and he used some choice words I won't use in front of y'all, but he said, you pour that much concrete and pavement, water ain't got nowhere to go. Water's gonna go somewhere. And so every time we build a new driveway or something like that, that water's going to, and I learned this the hard way early on. If you'll notice, every one of our roads either goes up a hill or down a hill or is beside a creek. Well, when it rains, that water's coming off the creek. And the bad thing about it was when it comes off, it's bringing sticks and rocks and leaves with it, which stops up the tiles. So then the water's got to go somewhere else. So it's a fight. So again, I guess so. The suggestion. It can't vote, but somebody shoot down $100 and.
I mean, we can always go down. Here's the deal, whatever's proposed, we ain't going up from it.
Right.
We can always go down.
If you bring us $100 and talk to the community, see what the taxpayers say, there's significant pushback, maybe we can come back and consider something longer, but let's take to the public what the option might actually be.
Yeah.
And then we can come down from that if we feel like we have to.
Yep.
And I say bring us that and let's talk to the constituents about it.
We can take the worst case scenario.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there'll be a lot more open arms if we went the opposite way. If we started 50 and went up.
Yeah, I agree. Okay. All right. We will make that adjustment and have it for you on the 24th. No. Any other questions, discussions before we move on to the next one? All right. I think the next one we've got is solid waste on our side. Well, capital projects. Yeah, so capital projects, we're talking about what we as a committee approved. Again, there's another one of those of the list of needs and wants is long. Daisy, how many of these numbers? We had a fund balance of community fund balance this year, after everything's paid off or paid out of that.
Estimated ending, 377,000.
377,000 in estimated endings. With if the tax rate stays the same and the same allocation, you'll gain another 405 in change. So you're looking at $740,000 in what you've got already in the bank versus what you'll collect next year. In all transparency, the sheriff came and did ask for 16 cars, but to get him back to where he was, I think we agreed on five cars, 5 police cars. Jeff needs an ambulance remount at around $150,000. 131 to 140 on that. Mickey needed two more side boom mowers to mow right of ways as far as the big reaching up and knocking the treetops out. We are proposing to buy one of those. Jeff is replacing some AEDs for our first responders that are aging out, and that's about $15,000, I think that was. Yes, we just did approve a new deputy director admin vehicle for EMS. Basically, the Suburban right now is sitting at Smith County Motors and needs $10,000 worth of repairs just to get it back. It's a vehicle. It's got 173,000 miles on it. A new one outfitted is around $48,000. So that's
I think that's the maximum price.
Yeah.
I think we do it.
So we voted to include that in capital projects, which leaves you a total of about $50,000 left. There was discussion about that, but I don't want to spend it dry, because it breaks my heart to have to spend it all. But again, I wanted to set that. My goal when we did that was to sit there and let that build to where down the road when we needed fire trucks or turnout gear, we would have the money to be able to do those things outside of just our regular needs. But again, last year we didn't get an ambulance, we didn't get any police car, for the simple fact we had to replace the camera and locking systems at the jail at about $400,000. So that took all that money at that time. So you got $50,000 there. As I told the budget committee, don't touch that, because this year we had one unit at the jail and courts facility, one air conditioning unit that went out. That one unit was $22,000. They're all the same age, so the chances of another one going out, or maybe two, is good. So I mean, we need to have that money there for that kind of situation. So that's what we did on capital projects. Any questions or discussions on that portion of the budget? All right. Seeing none, we'll move on to debt service. Stayed the same because we still got to pay the same payment this year. Convenience sites, landfills. Major thing in waste, if you'll see waste pickup, it's at 0. We no longer in the hauling business of picking up trash at the convenience sites. We've partnered with another company that does that for us. We take their demolition trash at a reduced rate for them to be able to run those. Do that with 2 companies. We give them a reduced tipping rate, and they haul our trash from our convenience sites, which means we don't have to buy trucks, maintenance trucks, or anything like that. Don't have to worry about trying to find a driver or pay a driver or all that. So that budget is zeroed out. Convenience centers, the 3% raise there is something we put in that one. Landfill and operations maintenance, you got your raises. We put $2.5 million in site development because we will have to build another cell next year. So that stayed the budget on that one stayed relatively the same this year based on what we spent. Revenues are about the same as well. So that's one of those. Again, that's one that there's one that no Smith County tax dollars goes in. Any questions on the 207? All right.
How much more storage do we have?
We're soon be in the process. So we're working on getting a 10-acre sale approved. We have another 9-acre sale that's about to be approved, and then there's about 65 acres that needs to be all the permitted, you can permit, that we know of now. We got 400 acres, there's other areas that we've not explored yet, so somewhere around 75, 80 acres left, just at where we sit today.
Is there an estimate on how many years before we run out?
The 10 acres, the estimate we got the other day, that 10 acres is about 5 years. So depending on how we do it and what we do, I mean, I think conservatively 30, 40 years. 30 to 40 years.
And what's the cost if once we close that, keep maintenance up on?
So,
Because that's where we'll come in as
right,
taxpayers.
that's exactly right. So that's good point, Scotty. Right now, if you look at it, it's quite large because we've not closed out anything. If we could ever get ahead of the sale game to where we could turn around and start putting money on closing out sections of that, meaning where they cap it off and say we're never putting trash here again, that makes that number go down. So conservative, I mean, if you're closed and you got it closed out and everything's done, you're looking at a monitoring fee, and that's probably $100,000 a year, unless you have a pop out, and so you would need more because there's not a landfill anywhere in this area that's closed that don't every 2 or 3 years they pop up a leak that you have to go in and fix. So yeah.
So how are we effectively budgeting for that?
Well,
I've got granddaughters at 8
right.
years old and younger.
Right.
And they're going to be assuming
Yeah.
those responsibilities.
Yes.
And so what's the revenue we're getting from other counties and other cities bringing trash in here?
About $7.5 million.
Is it not that we can raise up enough money, charge them a little?
Yeah, I mean,
Because they've got nowhere else to go.
Right. As contracts age out and are re-signed, that number's gonna go up. And we've raised our tipping fees at the gate for people that don't have contracts up too. So yeah, we're constantly working on that. But like I said, I think we've got maybe 2 or 3 contracts that will expire next year, and we'll go into renegotiating, and we'll get, like you said, we'll get more money there. Once we get some of these sales, maybe at that point in time, we won't be under such a crunch of trying to finish the sale before we start putting trash in the sale. We'll have more room. We can, again, we can go get more customers to bring in more revenue.
I just don't want it to be a point where we're satisfied because I'm not happy with that right now.
I don't know. I don't either. I wish,
That those people that send in their trash to our county.
That's right. I mean,
we want them to pay for our future.
Absolutely. I mean, if we're gonna take that risk of having one here, it needs to pay off and go, yeah. So, yes, sir, Cordell.
Going back to the highway crisis that we're facing right now.
Yes, sir.
If we not impose a higher fee to these other counties bringing trash in here and use some of that money to alleviate the problem?
Separate money.
It's enterprise money.
Yeah, the solid waste fund is completely separate. We can't pull from it, we can't, yeah, that's, all that money has to go to that landfill. You can't pull it, no. Great idea, but no, it won't work. Yeah, good try. All right. Any other questions? Yes, sir, Billy.
I still have concerns about the supervisor records matter
Being put into the wages?
and the other wages instead of his own stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, we saw what the sheriff did, and that's kind of what we did as well. And we take it back out and move it if you want us to.
That's my feeling.
Yeah.
Everybody else.
Right. Any other questions, discussions, ideas?
I got a quick question.
Yes, sir.
On county growth, there's houses being built, protecting apartment buildings and, those kind of things, as we grow.
Right.
When the Cracker Barrels or the the other places come in here, is it not where we can charge them more? We don't want to discourage them.
Right.
But as we grow.
Well, that's, yeah.
They need to pay their.
Well,
money.
that's what we talked about earlier is doubling. See, right now, to pull a permit to build a house in Smith County, it's $750. Because this was done way before they changed the impact fees. And so the plan is that you'll have a resolution to double that to $1,500.
That's just for me to build a house. It's not-
Well, the commercial side also, I can't remember what, Jeremy had that resolution, we'll have it, you'll see that it goes up, yeah. Now, the thing is, Cracker Barrel's probably not gonna build in the county, they're gonna build in a city,
Sure.
which we don't collect any of that. If you build a house in the city, we don't get any of that money, outside of the property tax of the future. But as far as building permits or fees, we don't get anything inside the city limits. That's their money. Any other questions, concerns on anything before we move on to the one you've all been waiting on? All right. 141, 143 are the school budgets. They did come before budget committee 3 weeks ago? May 7th, and presented this budget to it. We did ask some questions that night on some things. You'll look and see we'll start with their revenues, their projected revenues. So in the 141 side, which is our property tax allocation, sales tax, and their TISA funding, their budget estimate. That's right. Yeah. No, that's their financials. They're proposing a revenue next year of $32,566,257. So that's up about, I think it's a $2 million jump from last year, what they budgeted, what they are this year. So that's right. Yeah, about $2 million in new revenue from their TISA funding. All right, so if you turn over to the back of the page, and we'll just go from there on the 141 side. Their proposed budget for next year, 2025, with all their 10% increases for certified and non-certified workers, they proposing giving insurance to all the people that don't have insurance, is $40,960,550. Now, they said that they've built in $1 million in inflation. They've built in some capital, they're rolling some capital project outlays over that's not recurring, so. But at the end of the day, there's quite a bit of difference between revenues and expenses. So, what's the thoughts, Connor?
Did they give any explanation of where they're paying that $8.5 million? I mean,
It would be a fund balance.
$8.5 million.
So, Junior, you and Eric and all were there the other night, and what they told us at budget meeting was they think they'll do a fund balance draw, and that will keep them going. They'll have to do fund balance draws until the new wellness. Again, I'm speaking from what I heard him say. They're hoping that the wellness centers and the Save Lot building will increase their CTE number of students. They're changing their hours on athletics, and which will increase the students taking CTE, which is basically a double funded thing, but that's probably a year or two down the road before that hits. So at that current rate, you would be negative into their fund balance in 2 years and looking at coming back to you guys for more funding.
I believe they said it's only about 2 years worth. They have no projections for piece of funding, what they could possibly get out of
Right.
the wellness centers, and stress the fact that they have not asked the county for money in several years, and hinted that we should probably consider
Approving.
money towards sources.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I got a question that maybe somebody here can answer. When I look through all the money that they're asking for and the 10% increases, some of these people's increases that's on the side right now is gonna be more than what some people are making right now. We've got one I noticed that $17,800 what it means to him in a increase in his salary. We've got several on there that means $10,000 increase in their salary with a 10% increase, but yet still we've got people here that's making $19,000. And then if we turn around in a few years and have to tax to make up this money, the man that's making $19,000, he took a half step forward and 3 steps backwards. Now, why is it that we're going to increase the quality of life for people that's already making over $100,000? They don't need no rent. But this man making $19,000 driving a bus, the janitors that's not making anything, they need the help. Now, I wish somebody could explain to me why these upper tier people are going to get such a large increase in their salary when everybody else down here is struggling. It's a classic example of the rich getting richer, the poor staying poor. This plan here is not formatted for the working man. This trap, this thing is set up to make the people that's on the top tier make more money. Bottom line, nobody else in this is going to profit from this or improve their quality of life the way this thing is structured now. There's no way you can fix it that anybody can leave. Now, the man that's making $19,000 is going to get a $1,900 raise. Yep, that's going to mean a lot to him. But in 2-3 years, when we got to come back to this guy and say, you know what? We're going to raise your taxes so that we can take care of that raise we gave you. Nobody's more, especially not that one. But the man that gets the $17,800 raise, oh yeah, he's coming out smelling like a rose. The one making $100,000 getting a $10,000 raise, he's coming out smelling like a rose. And everybody that I talk to, other than a white. And if anybody here can explain this, I'll take it back to my people tomorrow. I'll get on the phone tonight and start calling people and explaining to them how this is supposed to work. This is not benefiting anybody but top tier. Nobody. Now, I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed, y'all know that. But would somebody please explain this to me? So I can go back with the next.
When you do percentage raises, and we do it too, that's exactly what you do. Every time. We do the exact same thing. When we give 3% across the board, the top earners are gonna get more. If you give a 10%, the top earners are gonna get more. They're gonna get more, because they already made more. If you wanna get, which we can't do that to them, but if you wanna do a flat across the board raise, then that's how you close that gap. You can't close it by giving a percentage raise.
Yeah, you would have
That's what I'm saying. This system that they're trying to, it's not working.
And you touched on it. I want to make it perfectly clear to everybody in here that I'm sure you already know this. They've already said this, and so we cannot line item their budget. We can't take line item 7,100, 110, 116 teachers and mark through that line and say no. We as a budget committee, you as a full commission have one vote. Yes, we approve. No, we deny. But nothing says you can't talk about here tonight, because we're not making any decisions, so anything is fair game to be talked about tonight. So, Connor.
I look at this budget and what they propose, and I see increase in pay for employees. I love that. I see giving medical insurance to everybody. I love that. And then I see an $8.5 million budget deficit. I really don't like that.
Right.
Because I know that the schools have said, the director has said, that this is going to be made up in the future with state funding. And that's a huge if. In my mind, the only person left holding the bag is the taxpayers of Smith County.
Absolutely.
Because if that money doesn't show up like
Right.
they expect it to, then the Board of Education is either gonna have to cut pay or come to us for a property tax increase in a couple of years because their projections didn't pan out. Now, if they want to send us to wait and when that money comes in, come and say, look, we got an extra $2 million. We'd love to spend that on teachers' raises. I'll be the first one to sign on to that. If they want to come when they get that money and say, we can do, all these other options, then, that is well within their purview. Because they're, like you said, we get thumbs up, thumbs down. So we can't go in and talk about specific items and change them ourselves. But what we can do is look at this $8.5 million deficit and say, the taxpayers that elected us are going to be the ones that are caught with that bill if your money doesn't come through like you think it might.
Right.
And so I don't see any way that this budget with an $8.5 million deficit can pass, because it just, their own money, their own general fund can fund it, part of it for 4 more years. And then we're stuck with property tax increase, we're cutting south, and nobody wants to live on it.
Well, one thing that we noticed today, and again, not trying to line item, just calling what we see. If you go to 71,100 and 7110, 116 teachers. All right, their last year's, their budgetary basis for 2023 was $8,134,636, which is what we passed. That's their actions. That's what they spent last year. Yeah, summary financial statement. You all got a copy of that.
What numbers did you say, Mayor?
It's the 7100 regular instruction credit.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. All right. Yeah. So major category. Let's just go with major category. All right. So last year their budget in regular instruction, which is at 71,100, that includes all the teachers and all that. So let's just say they increased. Let's just say that's all that together, and a 10% increase over what they spent last year, which was 23, and what you got it what they're tracking to. So last year y'all approved $14,852,400. Well, this year that's a total of that section. That's a total of that major category. Well, this year is $18,605,100. If you take $14,852,000 and you just add 10% across the whole board, that's $1,400,000. I mean, so that math don't work. That's more like a 20% increase in that line.
So here's the concern that I have, and y'all should have a summary financial statement in front of you from the board. And first, I want to say this. I don't think that there's anybody in here who's going to say, I don't think teachers or employees, that they don't deserve a raise.
No.
Okay? We all, I believe, are in agreement that we need to give them as much as we can. We want the best employees for the county. We want the best employees in the Board of Education. We want the best people, period, whether they're teachers or paraprofessionals or they're working in the cafeteria, maintenance. It doesn't matter what job they do. We want the best people working with our kids, period. I think everybody agrees with that. And we all know the realities of the workforce right now, especially in the state of Tennessee. There's a statewide teacher shortage. I mean, there's enough of a shortage that they're allowing retired teachers to come back, work, and then still earn their retirement because there's that much of a shortage. So I understand, the shortage. I understand the competitive nature of We talked about it when we did raises last year, playing leapfrog, you know, and trying to keep up with it. You know, so I understand what they're wanting to do, and they're wanting to do right by their people, and I respect them for wanting to do the best that they can for it. My concern is when I see the budget that's presented, and then I look at the most recent summary financial statement. If you look, if this is through April's numbers, and you're talking about 71,100.
Yeah.
If you look on that summary financial statement, they're just under $10 million year to date. That's only 67% of their budget, and they would have May and June left. If you extrapolate that out for 2 more months on the average that they're going, they're not even gonna hit their budget estimate for this year. They're not-
But they also gave a 12% raise in August. So that was already in their budget that we passed last year. Because that was my concern when they did it. I was like, well, they never mentioned that in May during budget time, so are they coming back with a big budget amendment? But no, they don't have to. They had enough in there.
But what I'm trying to say is this, looking at it, if you look and you extrapolate where they were at through April, if you take their monthly estimates, which probably isn't that high because their cost should go down because they're you know, at least for part-time employees. I know teachers are paid on 12 months salary, but that's $12.3 million is what that comes out to, that I'm projecting they will have for the end of the year. Well, if you base their budget on that, and you added 10% to it, to me, it appears they've got room in their budget already without projecting such large increases to cover these raises. That's what I see. I see that their numbers, if they came back, based off of how, if they come back to us with realistic numbers, they can do everything they want and be okay.
It's kind of what Daisy and I came up with today. Yeah.
Pretty much every category.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the
Yeah.
percentage of their budget for the year in the summary financial statement, and you extrapolate it to 12 months, they're going to come in under their budget projection.
And Ms. Norman stated the other night that she overinflated, she stated multiple times that she inflated those numbers quite a bit. And then Barry followed up with that he would never tell the county commission to base us passing their budget on the TISA form. He stated that multiple times in the meeting.
On the future fund.
On the future funding of the TISA form. So, that's something that hit home with me. I mean, he's saying don't base it on that, but they're wanting to depend on that.
Well, that's how they get to the fund, that's how they figure the fund.
So I know that, but TISA form, I mean,
Well, TISA this year's $2 million. They're up $2 million in revenue for next year is what their projection.
Well, and it looks like, again, if you look at their revenue projection, it looks like their revenue projection is probably going to come in short because they don't have their revenue than they projected, and their expenses are going to come in under. If they came, the issue I have is they took their 2024 budget and they, without running any analysis of what they actually spent, they just took and added to it.
Yeah.
Where we take and we do, you know, the budget committee sits down and does the 3-year rolling averages and is trying to figure out, it's not, hey, we just think we need to add 10% to everything.
Yeah.
I believe if they came back with actual projections that it'll work. It may have some of the fund draw. We'll have a fund draw every year. They project a $1 to $2 million fund draw. We're projecting a slight fund draw.
Yeah.
I'm not concerned with they've got $13 or $14 million fund balance. They project a $1 or $2 million fund draw. We can live with that that's fine.
Yeah.
There's no issues there. But when you project an $8.5 million fund draw, you know it's coming. You know, if you
Well, yeah, I mean, you're guaranteeing them they can spend that much. You're saying you can spend $40 million when you approve it.
I mean, I looked at their average going back to 2016. They are off by about 8.4% on expenditures. That's their average. They're off by 8.4%. But then on the revenue side, it's generally off to good. You know, to a little over 30%. So that's fine. You know, so that's great that they don't. You know, that's how they end up with fund balance. They're doing
Right.
I'm not questioning how they're
Nope.
spending their money
Nope.
by any means.
Nope.
They've done a good job managing their money.
Yes.
There, there isn't a concern there. I do want people to understand though, when the statement is made, they haven't asked for money from us. Again, you go back to 2016, we gave them right at $6 million. What are we budgeting them this year? $6.4 million. We give more in local option tax than Macon County does by $600,000. Macon County has 1,000 more kids. DeKalb County has a couple hundred less. They literally get $3 million less from their county. So as a percentage of the budget, we are funding our local schools more than these other rural counties are already. And we continue to give them growth every year up until recently when we have shifted pennies. We shifted pennies because we're in a situation where we need to do it. And I don't know if everybody's aware, but our required match for TISA for the budget year that we're in was $4.76 million. When we funded them, we budgeted just under 6.4. So we're almost $1.6 million above what the state and TISA says we have to fund them. So we win. There's no complaints from me on that.
No.
Don't misunderstand.
No.
If the money's being used well, I'm glad that we've been in a situation where we've been able to give them extra through the years, and the county's been able to give them growth. But we're not the only counties who have sat back, especially with the way recent funding is, because post-COVID, the state spent more money in education, the federal government spent more money in education. You know, when they're, the ISM grants, every school, every middle school and high school in the entire state got $500,000 or $1 million. The K-8 schools got $2 million, $560 million that they threw at the schools. And I'm glad that they did that. I'm glad that we weren't recipients of that kind of funding though. We didn't, the federal funding, I'm glad that they got it. Our kids needed it. My kids are in the system. Our kids were behind. I'm not concerned with the past spending. I'm glad it's been spent well. But we got to look at it accurately on how things have actually been done over the past few years, where money has been. Because we have funded them more than we're required to, and we have given them quite a bit of growth over the years. Because if you think about it, if we're still at that $5 million from 2015 to now, that would still put us above the TISA match. How much less money would they have in their fund balance if the county was still funded it at that level? So I think those are things that we need to give consideration. But my biggest thing is, I think they've got the money to give these raises. I think they've got the money to give this insurance. I think they've got the money to do their capital outlay projects. If we get some realistic numbers, if the numbers actually match what they need, they're not going unless something happens or something has happened, they're not going to spend their budget this year. They're not going to spend the $32.8 million. They're not even going to get to that number. So I have concerns with them going from 32.8 to over 40 million when it doesn't look like they're going to spend within their budget this year.
Yep. Any other questions? Discussion? Billy?
Did I identify funding, what would be current funding and what they, without funding?
Some of that capital outlay that they're rolling over is some of that still leftover ESSER fundings to finish out those wellness buildings. But as far as TISA and what we give them is the only recurring, is their recurring monies. So no, there's nothing that I'm aware of that's in there that's non-recurring revenues outside of that
Based
rollover.
on the figures, 10% increase in health insurance figure. I'm estimating somewhere around $3.5 million
Yeah.
increase for that. There's another $5 million there somewhere.
Right.
An increase in the budget.
Right.
I do remember them saying they have over $1 million in ISM funding still, that's grant money that's in the capital outlay that will be recurring.
Right.
And then they've got the one-time ball field improvements, which
Yeah. About 750,000 on that.
It's like 700,000. So those items won't be, I think it came out to like 1.8, and whatever I did the math, they will not be recurring. So out of that, we know this one kind of money.
Yep.
Do they have to follow, like we set up 30%? I know back in years way past, in 2000, when we done the building program and all, and that's how much funding they could put into the building program. They could only put in so much because the funding they got were restricted as to where they could keep it spent.
Right.
Could be spent on certain things. They got restrictions there, or they got up to 30%, or I think at that point in time, they had a 25%.
I've never heard, I remember, but I don't remember what the figure was, but that's a good question. We can find that out.
25%, they had to carry 25% out, so they $10 million.
Yeah.
Based on their estimated expenses.
Right. They wouldn't have it next year.
That's not what they say.
Yeah, based on those budget proposed. Ms. Greta, you had your hand up a minute ago.
I was just looking through all that, I just kept seeing bonus papers. What's that?
That I mean, they didn't alleviate or any, what that means.
I know they've got a strategic pay plan. If you're a level 4 and level 5 teacher, however they do it, I don't know how they get administered or how they get graded on that. Depending upon your observations and your score, and teacher can get bonuses if they're a higher tier. And that's standard across school systems.
Right.
I mean, that's.
Any other questions, concerns?
I did notice too with some of this, looking at it, it appears to me that there's some rounding up that's being done. The career ladder revenue expenditures don't add up. And for those who don't know, career ladder was phased out years ago with teachers who were grandfathered into it receiving state stipend. The state funded, and they continue to receive that throughout their service time. So as years progress, that'll go away because those teachers retire and get out of the system. They won't be in there. That doesn't balance. I don't know why it should pass through money, while the revenue side and the expenditure side doesn't add up. And then also, if you look at certain items such as Social Security or Medicare, it's off by $2,000 in each category. Social Security is 6.2%, Medicare is 1.45%, or whatever the salary costs are. You just take salary costs and you multiply it, you're going to get that number. So I have concerns that, if that rounding is being done in those areas, what other areas is it being done in? And that's causing, again, an unnecessary increase on that expenditure side. Where, again, if we saw what they actually, we can see what I believe are the real numbers that they need. I think those expenditures are a lot lower and a lot more reasonable. And the concern about fund balance draw goes away. That's, again, just my thought.
Or a minimal fund balance draw
That is
would be
sustainable.
nothing more than what we're doing, which would not concern me. And I think that's the big concern that I have is it's not sustainable for them to do. And I think that's what all of us have that concern with. I mean, I want the best for our teachers, I want the best for our non-certified personnel, and I want the best for the school system itself. My wife's an educator too, and it's taught in this county. But the math is not matching correctly, and that's where I have problems with. And every time that during budget finance, whenever I ask questions about certain items, I never got a specific answer that was a definition, this is what it was. And that concerns me. When you're the one who has the budget, and you're the one presenting it, you should be able to know it backwards and forwards and be able to describe what's going on. And nothing that I or any of the other committee members gave or asked during that time were answered, in my mind, satisfactory. And there was a lot of, we'll get back to you, and I've yet to get back.
Mayor, if I can, just to answer Mr. Bass's question, I was sent this actually by, one of their board members, last week. It's a Tennessee code, 49.352. It says unexpected education funds remain at the end of the fiscal year or carried forward in the educational fund balance. The fund balance may be used to offset the shortfalls of budgeted revenue or with the approval of the school board and the county legislative body to meet unforeseen increases in operating expenses. Any accumulated fund balance in excess of 3% of the budgeted annual operating expenses for the current fiscal year may be budgeted and expended for any educational purposes.
3%.
3% is the answer to that question.
Well, I think that statute is, because I talked to a few people, I think that moves, and Dave, you may be able to speak to this. I think that more deals with restricted funds, that if you've got leftover restricted funds, they become unrestricted in their budget. That's how I've always taken that. But we know the comptroller's guidance in their budget guide, talking about maintaining the fund balance is 15%. That's what the state comptroller's office says.
This is straight off CTAS, is what was sent to me, and it's got, I
No,
can send it.
yeah, but it says how they can use the funds. It doesn't say they have to maintain 3%. It says these funds can be used.
Anything over 3.
It says anything over 3% can be used for any education.
And I think that's
It
probably,
doesn't say you have to maintain it.
legal guidance, and then that doesn't mean you can't set a policy that's recommended to stay at a higher,
Which is what we passed a resolution in 2019 that we would maintain 30% of our cash.
But again, I say the comptroller's office, that's the comptroller's office guidance, it's 15% and 8%. And that's also another question is, based off of their projected fund draw and balance draw, they're gonna require documentation from the state, for their budget submission, they're gonna fall in the concern guidance because their cash to expenditure ratio is going to drop below the threshold and the fund balance. They're going to require cash flow.
yes, any fund that drops below, a certain percentage of operating cash, they're gonna be required to submit extra schedules to the comptroller's office before they would consider approval, even if this body approves it.
Now, question is, if we approve this budget as is, because it's on paper with an $8.5 million fund draw, we approve it as is, we're accepting that there could be an $8.5 million fund draw. What's the comptroller's expectation of us next year when we can't do $8.5 million fund draw?
I asked that question, just because, if I'm sending the budget up, I wanna make sure we're not sending anything that they would have any concerns about from their end. And basically, the answer I got was that, passing a budget with an $8 million deficit would leave the assumption that the county commission was aware they would have to increase revenue to offset that if that budget actually played out and the $8 million was spent. That they would be in the future increasing the revenue to assume that cost. So yes, they would approve it with the assumption that everybody here is aware of.
And next year you've got to make it up. Yeah. Yep, you gotta make it up.
Their assumption is we might not have to, their assumption is we will when it comes.
Yes, that you will, that this body will vote to raise the revenue to offset that. Yep.
Again, I don't think that's the case. I don't think that there's going to be anywhere near $8.5 million fund draw, and I believe, and somebody here correct me, I think, Ms. Mitchell said 4 to 5 million is what she was projecting. And I ran, those numbers I told you, their expenditures and their revenues, I ran balance projections based off of that. Again, if those trends continue, and I got right around $4 million. That's what, if their revenues and expenditures stay the same, I'm also assuming that that's based on being necessary as well. And that's, the concern is that almost $41 million really necessary.
Yeah, is that a real number? Yeah.
The question is there any way for us to get reserve numbers before?
Well, what you'd have to do, and we've always prided ourselves on passing our budget in June and passing it before the deadline. But if you wanted to see their actual numbers, you're looking at waiting till probably July when the books, August when the books close out. You can wait till August. I mean, you got till August 31st, and then it goes back to last year's budget. But you would have, you could, it wouldn't be actual, but you would have a summary. On July 1st, you could run a summary financial statement of just like what we ran. Yeah.
I mean, you have to have those books closed
Right.
before all that was really.
Yeah. So end of July, you could have it. Yeah.
In most, I mean, well,
Or you could, if you had the May numbers by the end of June or early July, you would have those, and you would still have, you could project it out. Yeah.
I mean, I know we won't get that certificate, fancy certificate.
Yeah. I can't get a clean audit. That was my only hat to hang on, but you're going to deny me that.
I know we wouldn't get that little certificate from the comptroller's office, but it's a piece of paper, you know, that
To you it is. To me it's important.
you know, so if it take, you know, if we need to, if we can, I mean, we all,
Well, so tonight, after this meeting, from what I'm gathering, y'all want us to reject this budget and send it back to them. That wasn't a vote. To be clear, that wasn't a vote. That was just a bunch of people saying yes. Then they'll have, Daisy, 10 days to bring it back 10 business days to bring it back to the budget committee, or revised. And then we would say yes, no.
If it's rejected twice, it comes straight back a third time to the full commission. It can't go back to budget committee.
Yeah, if we reject, if the budget committee rejects it tonight and they don't make the changes, or they don't give more realistic numbers, and then it would just come straight to full commission, and y'all could, then the whole body could say yes, no, or, yeah, good. So that's kind of how the timeline would play out. Matt?
More of a question for the attorney, he's not here, I'll reserve that later.
Okay.
I would say this, I would pass their budget with the raises, with the insurance.
Yeah. And I think, I'm with you, Justin. I've run these numbers today too, and I think it's there. Yeah. I think you could just my math, you could legitimately take last year's budget and increase it by 10% and cover everything they're looking for. And not have a major fund draw, not be scared to death next year that a property tax is going to, because, all right, they said it the other night, y'all were there. They want to come to us as soon as we can get it on the agenda and talk about a $75 million building project is what they talked about.
Yes.
So we need to pass a budget before we get that done. So I would say we put that on a July meeting, but from what I'm hearing, we may not have a budget passed by then. So shortly, as soon as we pass a budget, the next meeting, then we will invite them to come and have their analysts or consultants or whatever present that program to us. Yes, sir, Bill.
Even if they got their estimated expenditure down to $35 million, if they find something they need to go over, all they have to do is go back to us.
It's the same as, yeah, I mean, the same as what we do with everybody. I mean, I don't like per se capital projects in the middle of a budget year, but we did it last year with guns, with body cameras, and stair assist.
If they leave it at 40 million, they can move money around in there for how they want.
Absolutely.
Wherever they want,
Yeah, and spend it all. That's right.
other than time.
Other than
Within
that.
major categories.
And what-
Within major categories.
Within major categories.
Without getting a budget amendment from us.
I'm sorry,
If they move from one category to another,
it still has to come to full commission.
they have to come to us.
And I think every one of y'all has had, I know for the past 6 years, that's been the attitude is pass a legitimate number. We've talked about this with several departments, give us a legitimate number. I go back to the cafeteria with Eugene, you know, he always wants an increase, and it's always been, hey, if you run short, you can either find it in your budget, or we will make you whole. And it always works out. And I think that would go across the board for everybody.
This commission has not projected, in this term, has not projected budget.
No. Most of them's been unanimous, if not all.
This commission has not, there's been some no votes, but this commission has not projected
Yeah.
anything.
Connor?
I know the budget committee needs some direction, so what my view is, if we were given a real budget with a 10% salary increase and medical insurance, based on what the actual numbers are, I would approve that in a heartbeat.
Absolutely.
But I can't approve
$40
a
million.
budget with $8.5 million. Because they may say 12 days to Sunday that they're not going to spend that, but we've approved it, so we have no say once we approve it. And so I cannot approve that budget, and I can't, I would ask the budget committee not to.
Right, and you would do, if I brought you that kind of budget for my budget, you do this, you better do the same thing to me. You know, so, yeah, I mean, it's not picking at you, Mr. Huff.
What little bit I know, don't work on. They're trying to get it where we're competitive.
Right.
You want the best picture, you
Right.
gotta pay that minimum wage. Bus drivers are leaving. I just dropped a double, have a triple route,
Right.
because we ain't got enough drivers, so you can go outside this county and make $24 a day driving. That's where they're trying to get. They're trying to get where they can keep employees.
Right.
Instead of bringing in these first year
Right.
teachers. Hey, I got two, good, Buckingham County go off me this much more, this much.
Right.
They're leaving quicker than they can bring them in.
Right.
I mean, that's one of the things they're struggling with, is keeping employees.
But they did state in one meeting that they had people coming in to hear that they,
That was the night they said.
yeah.
I had 4 bus drivers.
I haven't heard anybody in this room argue against paying those bus drivers, those
Nope.
teachers.
Nope, that's not, no, it's just,
Everybody
something don't look right with these numbers. Fix them, and
just want realistic numbers.
as Connor said, if you come back, Mr. Bass?
Daisy sent out a sheet with a doctorate, a master's,
Yeah.
30 hours,
Yeah.
master's,
Yeah.
bachelor's, and then broke down to 25.
Yeah.
That 25, is that 25 years of service?
I,
Or is that zero, beginning, bachelor's degrees, $46,000?
yeah, it's a metric that if you come in with this much experience, I think that's how that salary works.
So, 46,000 unit hours,
Yeah.
beginning bachelor's pay.
Yeah.
If we give them 10%, they're gonna go up above that.
$50,000. Yeah, and they're done. Yeah.
Governor's said.
Yeah.
Is that gonna keep them from receiving more money than the others?
No.
Because we've gone over 50,000?
The cab county was over it this year, but yeah, that's a big.
All that's based off of, their average daily attendance and that TISA funding and how they work those students through the system.
I was under the understanding though that just to bring up the minimum, beginning teacher pay, the minimum $50,000.
Right.
If you're already at that, it doesn't, you're saying it still adds to it?
I thought that was already included, but I may be wrong.
Or are they gonna get this year money from the state plus 10%?
That would be something we need to look at and research. We'll try to find the answer on that to tell the truth. Yeah, I don't know. I don't understand how that works. Yes, sir, Tim.
Do we have somebody who can come here outside this county and explain to this body the TISA budget? Because I don't know how many people actually know how that works.
The education, physical rep, for the area, I've been in contact with Chad Wood once, since maybe when I was adopted, I believe he would be willing to, I know he's told me he's willing to come and meet me, he's gonna be in the area, I know in July. So I will reach out to him and ask if that's something that either them or CPAC could,
Well, in that document we've sent you, you have that preliminary estimate, and it, it just off a base, up there at $7,075 per student, they have 2,918.59, I don't know what that .59 means, but, and that's how they get their 20 million. And then everything down here is an adder, and it adds up to the $28 million. So, yeah. But yeah, Daisy can reach out to her person and see if they can explain it to you better.
Those are estimates, projections.
Well, in all transparency, we reached out to them right after the budget meeting. I had a conversation with Mr. Lewis that he wanted Mr. Smith to come and explain this to us. He actually asked if there'd be a laptop and screen. I said 100%. That was the plan going forward. They were going to be here tonight to make that presentation and answer any questions you had. Is it Monday? 21st, we got an email saying that, yeah, sometime after that, yeah, we first emailed on the 21st, and then somewhere after that, they sent us back and said they wouldn't be here. They had vacations and surgeries and such, and they weren't able to be here. I get that. I mean, we've got people out, and so I mean, that's I get that. They've had a couple of deaths in their extended board family. Any other questions or discussions before we adjourn? All heart, as the old preacher used to say, all hearts and minds are clear.
What is the plan of that? Budget finance, or budget finance committee?
Yeah, as soon as this, so we recessed at 5:30. As soon as this meeting adjourns, we will gather back together as a committee and go back into session and vote on every budget that we're going to send to you whenever that date ends up. But what the feel I get is that we will vote the education budget back down and have them give some different numbers. So, any other questions or discussions? All right, seeing none, I take a motion to adjourn. Second. Junior, all right, a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? All right. Budget committee, hang around. We'll get together up here in a minute.